I never believed in ghosts until I saw my dead husband's wedding ring sitting in a pawn shop display case in downtown Portland, 3 years after I buried him. Let me back up. My name is Sarah, and my husband Marcus died in a car accident in February 2020. At least, that's what I thought. That's what everyone thought. There was a closed casket funeral. The accident had been that bad, they said. I was too destroyed to question it. Too numb to ask to see him one last time. They said it would be better if I remembered him the way he was. Marcus and I had been married for 7 years. We met in college, one of those stupidly romantic stories where we both reached for the same book at the library. He was studying architecture, I was getting my degree in education. We got married young, maybe too young, but it felt right. He was my person. My absolute everything. The ring was custom made. I'd saved for months to afford it. Inside, I had engraved, S&M Forever February 14, 13 our wedding date. It was a simple platinum band with a small distinctive scratch on the side from when he'd helped his brother move and scraped it against a metal filing cabinet. Marcus never took that ring off. Ever. He said it made him feel like I was always with him. So you can imagine what went through my mind when I was walking past Riverside Pawn on a random Tuesday in March 2023, casually glancing at the window display, and saw that exact ring. Same platinum band. Same scratch on the side. I stood there on the sidewalk for what felt like hours but was probably only 30 seconds, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out right there. I went inside. My hands were shaking as I pointed at it. That ring, I said to the guy behind the counter, a middle-aged man with a grey beard and kind eyes. Can I see it? He pulled it out, placed it on a small velvet pad. I picked it up with trembling fingers, turned it over, looking for the engraving. It was there, inside the band, but my entire body went cold when I read it. D&M always June 22, 19. Not my engraving. Not our date. Not my initial. Ma'am? You okay? The pawn shop guy was looking at me with concern. Where did you get this? I managed to ask. He checked his computer. Came in about 6 months ago. Guy sold it, needed quick cash. Happens a lot. What did he look like? The man squinted at me. Look, I can't really give out information about. Please. My voice cracked. This ring, it's identical to my dead husband's wedding ring. Please. Something in my face must have convinced him. He sighed, clicked around on his computer. White guy, maybe late 30s, brown hair, about 6 feet tall. Gave his name as David Morrison. That's all I got. David Morrison. Not Marcus Wright. But that ring. That exact ring with the same scratch. I bought it. Paid the $300 they were asking without negotiating. I had to have it. Had to understand what the hell was going on. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning the ring over in my hands, looking at that engraving. D&M always June 22, 19. June 22, 2019. That was 8 months before Marcus died. 8 months before the accident. I started thinking about things I hadn't let myself think about in 3 years. How Marcus had been acting strange those last few months. Taking calls in another room. Being vague about where he'd been. I'd chalked it up to work stress. He'd been working on a major project, or so he said. But now. The next morning. I called the police department and asked to speak to whoever had handled Marcus's accident. They transferred me around until I got Detective Linda Walsh. Mrs. Wright, she said when she finally got on the line. I remember your husband's case. I'm so sorry for your loss. What can I help you with? I told her about the ring. About the engraving. About the name David Morrison. There was a long pause. Mrs. Wright, are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes. I need to know, I interrupted. Please. Something isn't right. Another pause. Then, come to the station. Bring the ring. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Detective Walsh's office, the ring on the desk between us. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an air of competence that made me feel like I was finally being taken seriously. I pulled your husband's file, she said. The accident report, death certificate, everything. It all seems straightforward. Single car accident on Highway 26, car went off the road during that bad ice storm we had. Caught fire. The body was badly burned, identified through dental records. Dental records, I repeated. You're sure it was him? According to the records, yes. But... She leaned back in her chair. I'll admit, this ring is strange. Let me do some digging. Can you leave it with me? I didn't want to let it go, but I agreed. What choice did I have? 3 days later, Detective Walsh called me. Mrs. Wright, I need you to come back to the station. And you might want to bring someone with you for support. My best friend Rachel came with me. Rachel had been there through everything: the funeral, the aftermath, the long process of learning to live again. She held my hand in the waiting room until Detective Walsh came out to get us. The detective's face was grave. Sarah, can I call you Sarah? I nodded. Sarah, I ran David Morrison through our system. He's real. He lives in Seattle. And I made some calls. David Morrison reported his partner Marcus Morrison missing in July 2020, 5 months after your husband's supposed death. The room spun. What? Marcus Morrison? His partner? They were married in June 2019. She slid a photo across the desk. I looked down at it, and my world shattered completely. It was Marcus. My Marcus. In the photo, he was standing next to another man, both of them in tuxedos, both wearing rings, both smiling at the camera. Marcus looked happy. Really happy. Maybe happier than I'd ever seen him. This doesn't make sense, I whispered. He was my husband. We were married. How could he marry someone else? How could he? Sarah, Detective Walsh said gently. I pulled your marriage certificate. You and Marcus Wright were legally married in February 2013. Marcus Morrison and David Morrison were legally married in June 2019. Different names, different social security numbers. I think your husband was living a double life. Rachel's grip on my hand tightened. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. There's more, the detective continued. I spoke with David Morrison this morning. He said Marcus disappeared in July 2020. Didn't come home from work one day. His car was found abandoned in a grocery store parking lot. Phone was turned off. Bank accounts emptied. David filed a missing persons report, but there was no trace of him. Until now. So the body in the accident, I said slowly. If Marcus was alive 5 months later. Wasn't your husband, Walsh confirmed. I'm reopening the case. I've requested the dental records to be re-examined. But Sarah, I think someone else died in that crash. And I think your husband staged his own death. The next few weeks were a blur of revelations, each one worse than the last. The dental records had been falsified. Someone had paid off the examiner, who'd since retired and moved to Florida. The body in the crash had been a John Doe, a homeless man who'd been reported missing around the same time as the accident. No one had claimed him. No one had cared. Marcus, my Marcus, had somehow orchestrated the entire thing. The crash, the body, the identification. He'd killed a man to fake his own death. But why? Detective Walsh kept digging. She brought in FBI investigators. They uncovered a trail of financial fraud going back years. Marcus hadn't been an architect at all, or not primarily. He'd been running an elaborate investment scam, promising people huge returns, using new investors' money to pay old ones. A classic Ponzi scheme. He'd stolen over $4 million from dozens of people. And he'd been doing it under multiple identities. Marcus Wright. Marcus Morrison. Marcus Thompson. Marcus Edwards. Each identity with its own life, its own bank accounts, its own wife or partner. I wasn't the only one. There were 3 others. David in Seattle. Jennifer in San Diego. Amanda in Austin. All of us thought we were Marcus's one and only. All of us had mourned him. We all got together eventually, the 4 of us who'd loved versions of the same man. It was surreal, sitting in that conference room at the FBI office, looking at these 3 strangers who'd shared my husband. David was a quiet graphic designer, soft-spoken and still clearly heartbroken. Jennifer was a lawyer, angry and sharp. Amanda was a nurse, practical and stunned. How did we not know? Jennifer kept asking. How did none of us know? The FBI agent running the case, Agent Torres, explained it. He was careful. He kept each life separate. Different cities, different social circles. He traveled frequently for work, which let him move between identities. And he was good at compartmentalizing. Sociopaths often are. Sociopath, I repeated. The word felt heavy in my mouth. Everything suggests yes, Torres said. The fraud, the manipulation, the multiple families. The fact that he killed someone to fake his death. These aren't the actions of a normal person. Did he ever love any of us? Amanda asked quietly. No one had an answer. The investigation intensified. The FBI tracked Marcus's movements after his death. He'd fled to Mexico first, then Costa Rica. He'd been living there under yet another name, living off the stolen money, playing poker, dating local women. Living his best life while we all grieved. Then 6 months ago, he'd gotten cocky. He'd come back to the States, to Las Vegas. That's where he'd pawned the ring he'd probably needed cash for gambling debts. One stupid mistake in 3 years of successfully being dead. They caught him in early May, in a hotel in Reno. I wasn't there for the arrest, but Agent Torres showed me the footage later. Marcus looked older, harder. He didn't go quietly. He ran, got tackled by agents in the hotel hallway, and screamed that they had the wrong guy. They asked if I wanted to see him. To confront him. I said no at first. What would I even say? But David wanted to go, and Jennifer, and Amanda. So I went too. All 4 of us, united in our betrayal. The meeting was at the Federal Detention Center. They brought him in wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. When he saw all 4 of us sitting there, his face went white. Oh God, he said. Which one of us is the oh God for? Jennifer asked coldly. Or is it all of us? Marcus looked at each of us in turn. When his eyes met mine, I tried to find the man I'd loved in that face. The man who'd brought me coffee in bed, who'd danced with me in the kitchen, who'd held me when my mother died. I couldn't find him. Maybe he'd never existed. I'm sorry, he finally said. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm sorry. Did you love any of us? David asked. His voice was shaking. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I thought I did. In the moment, with each of you, I thought it was real. But I don't think I know what love is. I don't think I ever did. You killed someone, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. To get away from us. From your crimes. You killed an innocent person. He was dying anyway, Marcus said. Liver disease. I paid him $10,000 to get in the car. Told him it was for his family. He didn't know. I didn't tell him it would. He trailed off. But you knew, Amanda said. You knew you were going to crash that car. You murdered him. Marcus didn't deny it. We left after that. There wasn't anything else to say. The man we'd loved, all 4 versions of him, was a stranger. A monster. Or maybe he'd always been a monster, and we'd just been too close to see it. The trial was long and public. Marcus was charged with fraud, identity theft, and murder. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without parole. I testified. So did David, Jennifer, and Amanda. So did dozens of people Marcus had scammed. The families of the homeless man he'd killed. It turned out he did have family, a sister who'd been looking for him. They gave victim impact statements that had everyone in the courtroom in tears. Marcus showed no emotion through any of it. He sat there in his suit, expressionless, like he was watching a play about someone else's life. It's been 6 months since the sentencing. I'm still processing everything. Still trying to understand how I spent 7 years married to someone I didn't know at all. How I mourned someone who wasn't dead. How I built a life on a foundation of lies. I've been in therapy. So has David. We actually go to the same therapist now, a specialist in trauma from relationship fraud. Jennifer threw herself into work. Amanda moved to a different state, wanted a fresh start. We have a group chat, the 4 of us. The Marcus survivors, we call it, with a dark humor that helps somehow. We check in on each other, share resources, sometimes just vent about how surreal the whole thing still feels. People ask me if I'm dating again. I'm not. I don't know if I ever will. How do you trust anyone after something like this? How do you believe anything someone tells you? But I'm surviving. That's something. Some days I'm even doing better than surviving. I got a promotion at work. I adopted a dog, a three-legged rescue named Charlie who's as broken and resilient as I am. I'm learning to be alone without being lonely. The ring, both rings now, the original one and the pawn shop one, are evidence in the federal case. Eventually I'll get them back, though I don't know what I'll do with them. Maybe melt them down. Maybe sell them and donate the money to fraud victim support groups. Maybe just throw them in the ocean and watch them sink. Last week, I got a letter from Marcus. The prison had forwarded it. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. It was short. He wrote that he understood if I hated him, that I had every right to. He said he'd spent his life running from himself, trying to be different people because he didn't like who he really was. He said he'd destroyed everyone who'd ever cared about him because he was broken in a way that couldn't be fixed. He ended with, "You deserved better than me. You all did. I hope you find happiness. Real happiness, not the fake version I gave you. I'm sorry for taking 3 years of your grief. I'm sorry for all of it." I read it 3 times, then put it in a drawer. I don't know if it was genuine or just another manipulation. With Marcus, I'll never know what was real and what was performance. But here's what I do know: I survived. I found out the truth, as horrible as it was. I'm rebuilding my life, this time on a foundation of reality, not fantasy. And every morning when I wake up, I'm grateful for that, at least. Sometimes late at night, when Charlie is snoring beside me and the house is quiet, I think about that moment in the pawn shop. Seeing that ring in the window. How one random glance changed everything, unraveled 3 years of grief and revealed the truth underneath. Part of me wishes I'd never walked past that shop. That I'd kept believing Marcus died in an accident, that our love was real, that I was his only one. Ignorance was easier. Grief was cleaner than betrayal. But most of me is glad I know. Glad I found that ring. Because living a lie, even a comfortable one, isn't really living at all. I don't know what happens next. I'm taking it one day at a time. But I'm here, I'm real, and my life is my own again. That has to be enough. The other day, Rachel asked me if I thought I'd ever fully get over it. I told her the truth: I don't know. Maybe you don't get over something like this. Maybe you just get through it, and come out the other side different than you were before. I'm different now. More cautious, more cynical maybe. But also stronger. More certain of who I am when I'm alone. Less willing to lose myself in someone else's story. I'm Sarah. Not Marcus's wife, not Marcus's widow, not Marcus's victim. Just Sarah. And I'm learning that maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than enough. Maybe that's everything.